So, is anybody else getting really sick of everything getting worse all the time? Like, I'm sure nobody needs me to lecture them about the state of the world, but it really is just exhausting how everything is just so bad and getting worse all the time. Not a good start to the year. But, music's really good right now.
Please, 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 don't prove I'm right.
Hey guys, long time no speak, I guess, but I simply had to make this video. Now, 99.999% of my subscribers were not there for this period, but I actually started making videos about hit songs on the Hot 100, Billboard, you know, that sort of thing. But as interesting as my lore is, it is simply not as interesting as the music this year.
Put the wrong label on me, I'ma get them dropped. Ay.
Music just felt big this year. It was really blockbuster-esque is the way to describe it. This is going to be one of those years that people remember. Unfortunately, you read the title of the video, you know what list this is. We're not talking about the great, influential, massive music moments of this year. We are talking about the absolute failures. Despite the really legendary reputation of music this year, which is warranted, there were a decent amount of absolute stinkers that managed to claw their way into the popular consciousness. Now, with a year like this, in hindsight, it's going to be obviously looked back on with fondness and reverence for all of the great, massive music moments that we had, but we can't appreciate those excellent moments without really zeroing in on just what exactly we were also doing, but not as well. Anyway, I think that's enough introduction. I mean, you came here to hear me bash on a bunch of fucking dogshit songs. Enough menacing around the shrub. The top 10 worst hit songs of 2024. Sorry if my voice sounds like shit. I've been sick for like 2 weeks, and it's completely destroyed my workflow, which is also why this video is late, but we're here now. On to the list. Gunna is a strange artist. Or at least he's a strange artist to me. I've always found his continued success a little bit perplexing. Sure, he's made some songs that I liked, but for the most part, he's just kind of there. He's always the least interesting part of whatever he's really on, in my opinion. Sure, he's had a couple of decent hooks, but for the most part, he's just really monotonous. And when it comes to the new album, I can't exactly blame Anthony Fantano for reacting like this. The things that people accuse Travis Scott of being are basically what Gunna is. His biggest hit this year, One of One, is, I hesitate to even call it bad, but it is on this list for one very simple reason. I've returned to this song several times throughout the year, and every single time, I get a little bit entranced by that opening. Oh, maybe this isn't as bad as I remember it being. And then by the ending, I am just so thoroughly bored and tuned out every single time.
One-on-one bitch at 18, one-on-one never again. One-on-one.
This song is like a white noise. It's like a void that just washes over me for 2 minutes every time I decide to listen to it. I can say a lot of bad things about a lot of songs this year, but for most of them, I can't really say that they're boring like this song is. In most years, being boring is a forgivable offense. You kind of just let it go and focus on the really obnoxious targets, but this year, I think being boring is just a little bit inexcusable. And in a year with songs that were so consistently good, listening to something that tricks you into thinking it's gonna be on that level only to be just a dismal dirge for 2 minutes, yeah, it just feels disrespectful. Try harder, man, come on. Sorry to all the cowboys in my audience, but there's gonna be a lot of country music on this list. It's one of those years for Nashville, sorry. Is this actually the worst Maroon 5 song in the year? Oh, I'm sorry, I mean Morgan Wallen? Who am I kidding? He's basically taking their place nowadays for a generic radio filler guy.
Rumors going all over town, can't keep my name out the mouth.
Now, this entry might puzzle some of you, like, on a technical level, is this song really worse than Cowgirls?
Long live cowgirls.
Like, surely this generic radio filler boring pop country can't be worse than that awful trap production and that really really lame hair metal-esque song that really just thinks it's all southern and classy, but is really just tacky and awful. Very original criticisms of this song, I know. It's just so riveting, there's so much to say about it. But I will say something that I've never heard anybody else say about it, and it's also the reason why I decided to spare it from the list. Cowgirls reminds me of Last Hurrah by Bebe Rexha, which is a song that, against all better judgment, I actually like a lot. Does Cowgirls deserve any of that goodwill? No, but you know, it has it, so the insipid radio song is the one that I decided to put on the list.
I just wanna love somebody.
You can kind of see why I spent most of the century talking about a different song. There's not that much to say about this, it's just kind of really lame and bad in like a not very interesting way. There was a lot, and I mean a lot of bad country music this year, and especially a lot of bad pop country crossovers, but at least all of them have something distinct about them that I can pinpoint, even if it's just how flat and lifeless Marshmello's production is, or this lazy and obvious sample in this pop country rap song. But Love Somebody? This is just in one ear and out the other. I gave Gunna flack for being boring, but standing right next to boring is bog standard. Morgan Wallen has a specific sound and lane that really works for him, but these pop hits are just becoming really intolerable, really fast, honestly. But you could still do worse, which is why we're only at number 9. And down to the depths we descend.
La plus belle des malédictions. De toi je devrais m'éloigner.
Stay in your Tory lane, bitch. I am not Iggy.
Sorry, it's just, I can't. After watching Kendrick utterly destroy and play Drake like a fiddle in their beef this year, it's kinda hard to remember that he actually wasn't the first person to take shots at Drake this year.
These niggas hate on BBL and be walking around with the same scars.
Yep, right in January, at the beginning of the year, Megan Thee Stallion set the hip-hop world on fire by releasing Hiss. She was on Drake's ass before We Don't Trust You even came out. And to say that she set the tone for the year would be an understatement. This was the year of beef. Mainly 2 beefs. I definitely get why Kendrick and Drake's beef stole the spotlight. It's a lot more fun to watch academics squirm around than it is to deal with Nicki Minaj fans. I don't think anyone in music had a worse year than Drake did public-wise, like public perception-wise, but Nicki Minaj at least deserves a little credit for giving him some competition for that title. Her feud against Megan Thee Stallion was just as ill-informed and by all accounts just as embarrassing for her as it was for Drake. It just didn't seem that way maybe because it only lasted for like 1 song. And what exactly was the bar that fueled this whole spiral?
These hoes don't be mad at Megan. These hoes mad at Megan's law.
Now, the beauty of this particular bar is that this could apply to so many people in the industry, but Nicki Minaj was so personally offended, she jumped on the sword to respond to that bar specifically because it hurt her so badly. And she did so with one of the worst diss tracks of the year. And considering how many people released diss tracks this year, that is saying a lot. However, Bigfoot was not a hit. Nicki Minaj's big hits this year were from her Pink Friday 2 album, which released before all this beef stuff started. But, she was still taking shots.
Stay in your Tory lane, bitch.
A lot of people observed that during the Drake and Kendrick beef, Kendrick did something that was almost unthinkable, which is that he made listening to Drake just seem more lame. And I gave you all that context, that whole rundown of the Nicki Minaj beef, because that's how I feel about this. I just can't listen to her brag and take stupid shots at Megan like this after entering a beef so clumsily and just embarrassing herself and falling flat on her face. And even divorced from the context of the beef, this song would still be ass. The beat sounds unfinished, the snare is way too high in the mix.
Don't want your mid.
I don't like the alarms, I don't really think that they work with the whole vibe it's going for, and it's built around a really obvious and blunt Waka Flocka sample that just makes me think, why wouldn't I just listen to Waka Flocka instead? I compared Nicki and Drake a lot in this segment, but the comparison is warranted. They've both been treading water for a while now. They both fallen victim to the really obvious, really lazy, badly used sample epidemic, and well, the rap beef comparison, obviously. I didn't like Nicki's other hit, Everybody, either, but at least that one was a little bit more upbeat and less like sour than this. This is just no fun. And all indicators point to Drake and Nicki being artists we can firmly and comfortably leave in 2024.
Mais comme dit le dicton, Plutôt qu'être seul, mieux vaut être mal accompagné.
You know, say what you will about all of the songs that I've listed so far, but I could totally see someone enjoying any of them. I get getting lost in the kind of languid, tranquil vibe of 101, or the kind of breezy pop country lightness of Love Somebody, or appreciating the beat and thinking it's hard for the Nicki Minaj song. But I try to picture someone who really, really likes this song, and I just cannot do it. Naturally, I'm talking about one of the most popular songs of the whole year.
These beautiful things that I've got, please.
I just can't believe it. I really thought that after 2020 we had banished Lewis Capaldi from the charts forever, but no, he's still here in spirit.
Beautiful things that I've got.
A lot of people have tried to place what exactly they think of when they hear Benson Boone's Banshee Shriek, and for me, I knew immediately what it reminded me of, and it is not a favorable comparison. An inexplicably popular song that has a guy wailing on it that people seem to like beyond all reason, despite the fact that his voice sounds like garbage? Where have I seen this before?
And then you pull the rug.
I will give Benson Boone this, he's not as bad as Lewis Capaldi, but like, that's a low, low bar. Now, I was exaggerating when I said that I couldn't possibly imagine someone really enjoying this song. I get what this song is going for emotionally, and I think it sounds pretty alright. It really is just his voice. This is where the Lewis Capaldi comparison comes in, because they both sing like someone who doesn't know that they're bad at singing. Clearly, the popularity of these songs are testaments to the fact that someone out there finds this shrieking appealing, but I personally do not get it. I miss rock songs. I think it's cool that one of the biggest songs of the year was a rock song, but I just prefer for it to be listenable. I'm starting to miss Imagine Dragons.
These beautiful things that I've got.
Tu sais ce qu'on dit.
Inexplicable popularity aside, this song is mainly on here just for being a 2023 hangover. The more the year went on and the more actually great and important music moments we got, the more this song and listening to it just felt wrong. Like seriously, this is one of the biggest hits of the year. This was a bigger hit than Not Like Us, Espresso, $1 Million Baby. Really?
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
Obviously, the Billboard chart has been getting increasingly more bullshit the earlier they decide to cut it off. There's always way too much Christmas music on there. It's not truly representative of the year. Other people like my friend Lydia Valentino make a lot more accurate and more representative charts, but even on those, Lovin' On Me is still an insanely huge hit, and I'm just baffled by it. Well, actually, no, I'm not. The success of this song is very explainable. David Guetta did something similar, actually. Make a huge, massive hit song out of a very obvious sample. In Jack's case, this would be his 2022 #1 hit, First Class, which sampled Fergie's Glamorous, and then lazily rip yourself off by shamelessly creating another massive smash hit based on a really obvious sample. This is what they call in the business the infinite money glitch. Jack Harlow actually did it better than David Guetta. Neither of his hits were #1s.
If I had a nickel for every time.
I'm a little bit inclined to say that Lovin' On Me is better than First Class because it doesn't have this lyric.
Pineapple juice, I give a sweet semen.
But at least that's memorable. The most memorable lines in this song are the ones where he compares himself to other famous pop rappers.
I'm vanilla, baby. Rico like Suave.
Not the associations I would draw if I was him, but considering he writes lines like this,
She wearing cheetah print. That's how bad she won't be spotted around your boy.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
and the aforementioned semen line earlier, I'm not sure he really cares. But that's the problem, isn't it? He should care a lot more. All I'm saying is, not caring in your music is gonna catch up to you eventually. Eventually, people are gonna learn, hey, if he doesn't care, why should I?
Sois près de tes amis les plus chers, mais aussi.
I feel like the age of streaming has given an artificial boost to a lot of careers that would have and probably should have naturally ended or tapered off by now. In some cases, this is perfectly fine. I mean, I'm okay with Beyonce getting album bombs, and it's pretty cool that a Kate Bush song finally became the smash hit it deserved after 30 years. So believe me when I say that I'm not against older artists continuing to persist through the streaming era on the charts. In fact, I think it's really interesting. We can see who's still big after decades and decades into their career. I say all of that just because there's obviously some artists that should have hung it up a long time ago. ago. Chris Brown shouldn't be thriving in this decade, Maroon 5 shouldn't have thrived in this decade, Jason Derulo shouldn't have thrived in this decade, and this year, I think we have to sadly add one man to that list. An artist who, at the start of the decade, I had held out some hope that he would remain interesting and a welcome legacy presence on the charts whenever he decided to show up. But after this year, I think it's a perfectly reasonable question to ask, why is Eminem still here?
Yeah, like a sore thumb with a forehead that it grew horns from.
Now stop typing those comments. I see you. Don't do it. I am not offended by this song. Well, I am offended by it, in the sense that I'm offended that Eminem has stooped so low as to make shitty, obvious sample bait garbage like everyone else has been making, and that he sounds so goddamn old while doing it. But no, I am not a Gen Z trying to cancel Eminem. I'm a Gen Z who remembers that Eminem used to try. I've never heard anything like the original Without Me. I have heard this. It's Abracadabra by the Steve Miller Band, a song that nobody likes. I'll admit, M used it in a way that made it pretty catchy. It was stuck in my head for a decent portion of time. Catchiness can only hide lyrical faults for so long, though. Hearing middle-aged Marshall Mathers rap about participation trophies deadens my soul. I know he meant for this to be, like, ironic or whatever, but in practice, it's just him telling dad jokes for 4 minutes. All the things I said about Fuck This Club Up in regards to Nicki Minaj and just not being able to listen to it after the beef also apply to Eminem as well. But in his case, it's worse, cause he dad jokeifies it. He wanted us to think he was at least a little bit clever for saying that, but it's just his lame dad joke spin on joking about Megan Thee Stallion getting shot. You're 2 years late to the party, Marshall. Nobody's angry anymore, it's just sad. You said it, man. I do recall saying there was gonna be a lot of country music on this list.
I woke up on the wrong side of the truck bed.
This Walmart Johnny Depp lookalike contest winner is Hardy. I hate him. His album, The Mockingbird and the Crow, was massive, and that is insane to me because it is goddamn terrible. I've heard people call him Johnny Cash Grab, Moonshine Down, Godsmack Daniels, Imagine Wagons. I'm literally just stealing jokes from Brad Taste in Music's chat from his reaction to this album, but like, if you listen to this shit, the only response that you can even have is to just insult it. Hell, it insults itself. Me stealing it and using cheap jokes to insult the album is exactly the kind of response that the album invites by using those same cheap jokes to insult itself over and over again with Hardy's weird self-indulgent writing. His biggest hit on this album was a power fantasy about him taking down an abuser, which, you know, I mean, that's good, but in this song, he says this.
Bird's about to catch this 45.
He says, oh, I guess I got what I deserved, like he's self-aware about being a complete douchebag, but that doesn't make it any less annoying to listen to. I called him the Walmart Johnny Depp for a reason. He shouts out Walmart twice in this fucking album. This shit is just humiliating to listen to. It's country Nickelback, and one of Nickelback's producers worked on it, so that should really tell you all you need to know. If the words country Nickelback don't send chills up your spine intuitively, you're stronger than I am. You're harder, one could say. Oh god, the ironically sincere ironic shittiness is infecting my sense of humor. I gotta give it to Bro Country. They won. They've managed to evolve and keep up with the times, and we have to suffer the consequences. God help us. Is this really where rock music is headed? Are we really gonna have to brace ourselves for the Imagine Dragons country album? Hardy really opened up Pandora's box on this one, and the consequences are gonna be devastating. I've brought up 2020 a lot in this video, mainly because that's the last time I was really talking about popular music, so it gives me a lot of easy comparisons to draw, and it also is just interesting to see how the music landscape has changed and shaped itself differently over these past 5 years. When it comes to country music specifically, yes, the next song is another country song, I'm reminded that nowadays, there's a lot of big female country artists, and that was a thing that I first started to really notice changing back in 2020. Because let's be honest, the entire previous decade for country music was just a huge sausage fest. I mean, we have the term bro country for a reason. It was overwhelming and omnipresent. But in my best list for 2020, I reiterated over and over again that the explosion of female artists in the country mainstream was a really good thing. They produced a lot of really good music. I say all that because I fear when people see this next song, they're gonna think back to what I was saying about how amazing it was that there were so many new female country artists, and they're gonna blame me for this song's success, for being so encouraging. But I refuse to take responsibility for this one. If you want to blame someone, blame Jelly Roll.
Got me wide open, got a 45 on 'em.
I mean, right? It just makes sense. Jelly Roll spent pretty much all of this year using his name recognition to power just some of the absolute worst songs ever into some sort of relevance. Now, some of you are probably scratching your heads like, really? Is this really worse than Hardy's like douchebaggery or Eminem rapping with dad jokes? Yes. Yes, it is. Simply put, this is the worst sounding song of the year by far.
Say you wanna get dangerous, now you speaking my language.
Why does this song sound like that? I haven't heard a genre crossover mishmash glob of bullshit like this since, God, Fancy Like by Walker Hayes? There's really not even that much more to say. Sonically, the vibes are simply rancid. Actually, you know what it is? I figured it out. This is a country Suicide Squad soundtrack song.
Living in Gotham, and Bun is my Harley Quinn.
Ugh, just saying that sentence sent chills up my spine. Unsurprisingly, Jessie Murph and Jelly Roll have zero chemistry. Jessie Murph sounds like Lisa Simpson doing a Dolly Parton impression, and Jelly Roll, he's just kind of all over the place on this song. I don't even know why I'm still talking about it. You could just listen to it and you'll understand exactly what I mean. It just sucks. This is the worst hit song of the year. Worst as in most bad qualities. I think that the song that I put at number 1 on the list has the least good qualities, but this is just the worst. You can take pretty much everything that I said about Eminem and multiply it like 100-fold for Kanye. I ask why Eminem is still here out of sadness and resignation. I ask why Kanye's still here, but I know the answer, and the answer is fucking infuriating. I was talking up the pop music of this year a little bit much, I'll admit. For as big as the year felt, it didn't feel as in touch with the political and cultural zeitgeist as it has in some years prior. The exception, of course, being this song. Carnival is the soundtrack to the worst people on the planet completely winning and making everything worse for everyone all the time. Even if Ye wasn't a washed up Nazi gooner, this would still be like the worst song of the year just for the odious sentiment alone. Can you believe that this is Kanye's first number 1 hit since E.T. with Katy Perry? Talk about two artists we should have left in the previous decade. This ugly, loathsome track was released just in time to capitalize off of the UMG TikTok feud and snag the number 1. Amazing. He did it with some of his worst features,
She ride dick like a carnival.
his worst chorus, and the worst verse he's ever given.
Now I'm Ye Kelly, bitch. Now I'm Bill Cosby, bitch. Now I'm Puff Daddy Rich.
I already couldn't stand to listen to this earlier in the year, but how could anyone stand to listen to this shit now? Obviously, it's not fair to throw the entire weight of my feelings about the rise of global fascism onto one song, but everything about Kanye and his popularity and this song and this album and the discourse about it in 2024 felt like a microcosm of that anger and frustration that I felt. I hear this song and all I hear is people proudly proclaiming that they don't care that Kanye supported Hitler, or that they don't care that the worst guys on earth can just get away with whatever they want with no consequences. In fact, it's not that they don't care, it's that they do care, and they'll double down on supporting those guys whenever they get accused of doing the worst things imaginable, if they just say the words and are on their team. It's so fucking pathetic. I was just reminded of it every time I would hear that ugly pounding beat. There's a right and a wrong way to use obnoxious sound effects in a song, and yeah, this is not it.
Sweat today, ho, come back tomorrow.
The one thing I can say about this is that Vultures 2 seem to be bad enough that even the hardcore Kanye fans are kind of questioning now. Or at least I hope they are. I mean, maybe they'll hear the bully snippet or whatever the fuck he's working on, and they'll just go crawling back to him next time he releases. Who knows? Maybe he might even make good music again someday. But, if he's gonna keep making shit like Carnival, yeah, I think we can leave him in 2024. Most politically relevant song of the year, everyone. You're not getting those $2 eggs. It's not happening.
You my little boo
thing. So I don't give a hoot.
One of the bigger, more obvious, lame, big hits of the year that used a really recognizable sample. This one was mostly just kind of a little bit annoying, so I spared it. This might be Katy Perry's worst song, period, and that is saying a lot. In retrospect, I don't know why I was really rooting for a Katy Perry comeback. I think Never Really Over just gave me way too much hope because, yeah, she should not make any attempts at hits ever again.
Long live cowgirls.
Sucks.
Put some miles on it.
This song is really bad, but I literally don't care enough about it to write a whole worst list segment. I have literally nothing to say, it just sucks, it's terrible.
Lonely road.
This was gonna be on the list, but the number one song is kind of just a worse version of it, so I spared it. I didn't feel like repeating myself.
They call me offensive, controversial.
On the one hand, I'm glad that compared to 2023, terrible, awful right-wing music has had not as big of an impact on the charts this year, with this being the only real standout. But this hit the top 20 for 1 week and was pretty much immediately gone. If I really wanted to, I could put it on the list because it is worse than like almost every other single song on here from a pure musical and lyrical standpoint, except maybe Carnival, but it's not even worth it. Tom MacDonald is a pandering hack Canadian LARPing as an American patriot, and Ben Shapiro is a failed Hollywood screenwriter turned right-wing influencer who can't satisfy his wife. The fact that Tom MacDonald had to get Ben Shapiro of all people to get an actual charting hit is the saddest part about all of this.
We gon' spin and kill everybody.
Some people have said that this is worse than Fuck This Club Up. I do disagree, but I can definitely see it. Another song that leans way too heavily on its sample, but at least in this case, I kind of see what they were going for. Just definitely not my thing. I picked this one for the dishonorable mention because it was an actual hit, but you could pretty much throw Bigfoot on here as well. And before people accuse me of just blindly being a Nicki Minaj hater, I really like that one song that she put out last year. Wish that had been a hit.
Ain't it funny how it changes?
Another point of comparison between Benson, Boone, and Louis Capaldi. His second single, which was also a massive hit, was not as bad as the first one. But when I was listening to this, I could not shake the feeling that I'd heard it before, and it clicked. This is Just Brave by Sarah Bareilles.
You can be amazing, you can turn a phrase in.
Ain't it funny how it changes? How the future.
Like, am I going crazy? Am I the only one that notices this? It drives me nuts. We've covered a lot of ground on this list, from lazy, sellout pop country songs to uninspired, shameless sample usage. But what if, somehow, someone managed to do both?
She said, give me a dirt road, the windows down.
Yes, I know, I have the same top 2 worst songs of the year as Spectrum Pulse. It just happened to be that way. It was a coincidence. I hate this song. Do I hate it more than Carnival? Hard to say. But would I rather listen to Carnival or this again? I thought about it over and over again, and the answer was always Carnival. I really meant it when I said that this song has the least good about it out of every terrible song that I had to hear this year. I guess the terrible song this year that this most resembles is probably Lonely Road with MGK and Jelly Roll, but I'll say this much for them, at least MGK added something new for the verses. And when it comes to Carnival, at least when Kanye sampled Hell of a Life, he was only ruining his own song. Dustin Lynch decided to take a massive shit on one of the best songs of the 70s, and all for that quick pop country sellout money. Chevrolet. Jesus Christ. I am yet again reminded of Walker fucking Hayes in 2024. This song is the apex of the absolute worst of a bunch of different trends colliding all at once. Country music has fallen victim to the blatant sellout commercialization of indie rock. Hell, this is a lot more egregious than a lot of those. This is literally just a commercial. And I cannot stand the blatant advertising, man. Like and subscribe if you agree. The really incessant and over-reliant use of a very obvious sample and slap on a pointless co-feature just to get it some name recognition. Thanks, Jelly Roll. I mean, what a fucking disaster. The only thing that I can think to compare this to is, like, Surf's Up 2 Wave Mania. A soulless commercial cashing in on name recognition and brand IP familiarity. I can't think of a greater insult than calling something the Surf's Up 2 Wave Mania of music. But Dustin Lynch somehow managed to make a song that is perfectly worthy of that title. I know I said it just sucks a lot, which is kind of a lazy criticism, but A lot of pop music is just kind of bad in a really uninteresting way. And this is the extreme of that. It really does just suck. God, what a bad year for country music. Let's hope to hear better from Nashville this year. Hopefully we can drift away from this style of music, if you know what I mean.
This guy stinks!
Well, that was 2024. That was the worst list. It was a lot of fun to actually record something with my actual voice again. It's been a minute. And don't you worry, because I will be doing a lot more of this year. I've been wanting to make more voiceover videos for a while now. I have plenty of different topics in mind. I'm probably going to start uploading some on the second channel too, so keep an eye out for that. I'm probably not going to return to doing the top 20 rankings like I used to do years ago. Sorry. But if music keeps being super interesting, then I'll probably keep making these lists. Subscribe, like, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you for the best list. Eventually.